I became marketing vice president of Pepsi-Cola Company, which is the U.S. beverage business of PepsiCo, as I was just turning from 29 to 30 years of age. I was the youngest marketing VP that Pepsi had ever had. I was the first MBA that Pepsi had ever recruited 3 years earlier, and started out as a trainee, spending time driving route trucks, working in bottling plants, resetting shelves in supermarkets, getting a lot of real hands-on experience, which turned out in time became extremely important to the job that I had when I became marketing VP. Pepsi had not been a traditional packaged good brand. It had been largely a business that had grown up around the strength of its independent bottler system, and it was pretty much a regional brand, meaning that if you went to the Midwest states, Pepsi had a very respectable market share. But if you went down into the Deep South, the Southwest, markets like San Antonio, Texas, Pepsi was outsold 9-1. A market like Atlanta, Georgia, which was Coke's headquarter territory, Pepsi was barely available in any of the traditional supermarkets. So Pepsi was a regional brand. It was largely defined by the strength of its strong regional bottler system. And the bottler system had not really changed in probably 60 or 70 years, meaning that the territories of the franchise bottlers, Pepsi was a franchise system, had been defined back in the late 19th century, early 20th century, in terms of how far, originally a horse and buggy, later a truck with a gas or diesel engine, could go in a day, take the returnable glass bottles, because that's how it was sold, and take out the full goods, deliver them direct to the store. There was no warehouse role at all in the Pepsi or Coke system, and then take back the empties, and they were then washed and refilled, and the process would be followed again every day. So this was a system that had been pretty much the same for decades, going back to, we're talking about World War I, not even World War II. During World War II, Pepsi was barely in business and actually went bankrupt at one point because it couldn't get sugar. Sugar just wasn't available. At that time, foods were being rationed during the Second World War, and the only beverage that was able to get sugar in the Second World War was Coca-Cola, because they had a powerful special interest influence with the U.S. Government at that time, and they came up with the brilliant idea of saying that every GI, every soldier who was overseas, should have some part of the American experience, and that meant a Coca-Cola. And so the government gave Coca-Cola Company the unique role of building bottling plants and getting sugar and getting bottles to be able to sell soft drinks to those soldiers in various parts of the world, whether it was Japan or Germany or wherever it was right after the Second World War. So here was Pepsi, a company that only sold in a 12-ounce bottle. Many bottlers had to get beer bottles and refill them because they couldn't afford to buy new returnable bottles with Pepsi on them, and they just put paper labels on old beer bottles, and it was a regional brand. Now, that's hard to imagine today with the success that Pepsi's had now, many decades later. So that was the business that I became marketing vice president of back in 1970 when I was just 30 years old.